The 2024 Republican race is getting more crowded. South Carolina GOP Senator Tim Scott filed his paperwork today, launching his fundraising effort. He'll make the official campaign announcement at home in South Carolina on Monday. And as noted, we are told the Florida Governor Ron DeSantis will officially file his paperwork midweek next week. Here you see the leading names already in, about to get in, and several others who promise decisions relatively soon. Our great reporters are back at the table with me. Let's start with Senator Scott. Everyone else, you have Trump, you have well behind him in the national polls DeSantis, and then you have everybody else way, way back, and they're trying to find their piece of it. The New York Times saying this about Senator Scott this morning: there's little evidence so far that Mr. Scott's message strikes a chord with the populist base of the modern GOP, which for the last several years has been led by a former TV star who likes to fight. Again, back to the same conversation we're having about getting at DeSantis and Pence's idea about limited conservative. That's the challenge for these candidates. Which Republican Party are you competing in?
Are you appealing to, right? And can you effectively try to actually galvanize some of the Trump base while going with a different message? And to be clear, Tim Scott's message is quite different here. I would say even more than, or not even more, but also it's different than DeSantis as well. While, you know, as my colleagues wrote, while Trump is talking about needing to reform law enforcement agencies. He's attacking law enforcement agencies at time with his rhetoric and sowing sort of distrust as well. Tim Scott's message is much more kind of sunny language, Ronald Reagan-esque in a way. So is that also going to appeal to a base that has actually been engaged by Trump's language, which I don't think anyone would describe as sunny?
Right, and he launched a $6 million ad buy in Ira, New Hampshire today, which is $6 million. That's a lot of money, right? So if people listen at home. However, Trump has $100+ million. DeSantis has $100+ million. That's the challenge, is to prove what? To prove that you can start at least inching up to keep the money coming?
For sure, and I think also introducing himself. I mean, that's one thing that Senator Scott absolutely needs to do. He has a lot of goodwill. I was out with him in Iowa a couple weeks ago when he was doing an exploratory committee. He's one who's getting about 4 bites out of the apple here as he announced he's running for president. And Republicans there were very eager to hear his message, so intrigued by his biography. My question for Senator Scott, though, is biography enough of a message, or does he need something a little bit more than that? And he does have a hopeful, optimistic view. I don't see a lot of a demand for that necessarily, but without a doubt, he is going to do this, and I think he's going to have he's the only senator running, so he'll have some other support from senators as well. So, Monday it starts.
I think that's a key point. Trump is a grievance party. Can you pull it back to either a policy, an ideological, or an optimistic party? That's one of the challenges. Just look at the polling right now. It's Trump at 43, DeSantis at 20, then Pence, Haley, Christie, Asa Hutchinson, Tim Scott. These are national polls. You can change these numbers by winning Iowa or surprising in Iowa, New Hampshire, or South Carolina. Scott from South Carolina, Nikki Haley also from South Carolina, the former governor, the former UN ambassador. So let's listen to a little bit here. She got into the race. She says, I'm the alternative to Trump. You don't want to go back. She's trying to figure out her place, especially with DeSantis getting so much attention. This is about January 6th. Donald Trump calls it a beautiful day. Nikki Haley says no.
What I will say about January 6th, I will continue to say it was a terrible day. It was not a beautiful day. It was a terrible day. And we don't ever want that to happen again. If you break the law, you pay the price.
And on the question, she has come under some heat on the question of abortion rights. She says she's pro-life. She says as a state governor, she would sign restrictions on abortion. She says it's dishonest to talk now about whether it's a 12-week or a 15-week or a 20-week federal ban, because she says the votes in the Senate simply aren't there. And she says she's glad the Supreme Court overturned Roe, sent this back to the state. Now she says get the judges out of it.
We never should have had unelected justices deciding something that personal, because the idea of life and abortion is personal for everyone, not just women. Now the unelected justices have gone back and ruled, and I think righted or wrong, and put it back in the states, close to the people, where the people can decide what they want.
As she says, she hopes states pass restrictions, but if they don't, that's up to the people there, and she can accept that. The question is, what lane is that? Is there such a lane in the Republican Party? She's trying to sound like, is it more, well, I don't know what to call it. Is it more centrist? Is it more reasonable? Is it more open-minded? I don't know what it is, but does it exist?
Right. To go back to what we've all kind of been saying here is, how is the party going to define itself? And that really has been the question since Trump, right? Because even, when I talk to people on Capitol Hill, privately, Republicans are obsessed with Tim Scott. They really think he could bring the Republican Party back to what it was on principle, but also be able to have these bigger conversations on different subject matters. But I think that someone like Scott, someone like Haley, I don't know what that path is because it's not middle ground. They won't say they're moderate. They won't say they're pragmatic. They're trying to really find a lane here at a time when the party doesn't even want to really talk about abortion. They don't want to talk about those different, when should abortion bans be happening, those kinds of things. They don't want to have that debate right now. When do they have it? I'm not entirely sure.
And most of the primaries are closed, meaning only Republican voters. Not all, but most of them are closed, meaning only Republican voters. And the Republican Party has become more Trumpy and less, I would say, more of a grievance party than a smile party, like a Tim Scott, if you will.